I overheard my mom say, one friendly jab, Grandma won't leave a dime for him. My sister laughed, to the one who's always giving, always hoping, always waiting. I smiled calmly and said, you're wrong. The next morning, Grandma called me into her room and said, I've done something they'll never see coming. She took me to the lawyer's office. 3 days later, everything changed. I overheard my mom say it like a joke, like it was just a little comment. One friendly jab, she said, laughter tucked in her throat, and Grandma won't leave a dime for him. My sister didn't miss a beat. She chuckled, raised her wine glass, and added, to the one who's always giving, always hoping, always waiting. They didn't know I was home. I'd arrived early, my bag still in the hallway, my coat half off, trying not to let the cold in with me. I didn't expect applause. I didn't even expect a hug. But I didn't expect this. It wasn't the words that cut. It was the ease. The way they said it without even checking the room. Like I was furniture. Like I was the invisible engine that drives everything but doesn't need a seat at the table. I didn't interrupt. I didn't say, hey, or, I heard that, or, are you serious right now? I just stood in the hallway for 3 seconds too long, long enough to feel the air go stale in my lungs, and then walked in with the calmest smile I could find. You're wrong, I said. Just that. They turned to me, startled, guilty, embarrassed. No, amused. My mom blinked like I was overreacting. My sister raised an eyebrow like she was waiting for a punchline. There wasn't one. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat quietly for 10 minutes. No one followed. No one asked if I was okay. I checked my bank app, just to see, then closed it. No rush. By the time I left that night, the silence in my car was louder than the whole house. They thought I was being sensitive. They didn't understand what happened. They didn't know the line had just been crossed quietly, calmly, irreversibly. It wasn't the first time. That's what burned the most. That night, as I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling in Grandma's guest room, something in me refused to shut off. I didn't feel rage. Rage would have been easier. I felt awake, like I had just walked out of a cave and seen everything for what it really was. I kept hearing my sister's voice. To the one who's always giving, always hoping, always waiting. I used to think that was kindness. That maybe, if I gave enough, stayed hopeful enough, waited long enough, they'd see me. Really see me. But they didn't. They saw utility. And once you see it, once the veil lifts, you can't unsee it. I started tracing the pattern. Every time I helped, they twisted it into debt. Like when I covered Dad's emergency dental surgery and they told everyone at church he worked overtime to make it happen. Or when I paid for my sister's semester abroad and she told her fiancé our parents made sacrifices to support her dreams. They erased me in real time. And worse, they enjoyed doing it. I remembered Mom's voice 2 Christmases ago, telling Aunt Bernice that he's just not leadership material when I offered to coordinate the holiday logistics. I remembered my brother's wedding, where I was the best man, but not mentioned once in the speech, not as a sibling, not as a friend, not as the one who paid for the rehearsal dinner. I remembered sitting in the back row at my uncle's funeral because that section is for immediate family, even though I was the one who drove Grandma there and stayed overnight to help her grieve. It was everywhere. Like background radiation. Like mold in the walls. Like poison in water. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had built their entire hierarchy around excluding me. Because I was easy to exclude. I didn't fight. I didn't correct them. I just kept paying the invoices and waiting for the thank you that never came. And now Grandma, sweet, sharp-eyed Grandma, was the next battleground. The inheritance. The whispers. The game. They thought they were playing chess. They didn't realize I stopped being a pawn a long time ago. I got up before sunrise and found her sitting in the breakfast nook, doing a crossword like she always did. No makeup. No fuss. Just her and the quiet. She looked up and said, "You heard them, didn't you?" I nodded. She didn't apologize. She didn't need to. Instead, she said something that caught me off guard. I've done something they'll never see coming. I blinked. She folded the newspaper, stood up, and walked toward the hallway without another word. I followed her. She opened the closet and pulled out her wool coat, the one she saved for cold mornings when she meant business. Then she turned to me and said, "Get in the car." No questions. No small talk. She didn't even say where we were going until we pulled into the parking lot of a law office 18 minutes later. Inside, everything smelled like paper and wood polish. The receptionist greeted her like royalty. "Mrs. Delaney," she said, smiling wide. Right on time. We were led into a small, glass-walled conference room. Her lawyer was already seated, documents spread before him. "Just one signature," he said, looking at me. I was stunned, not because of the money. I didn't even know the amount yet, but because someone, finally, had looked at me and seen value. Not convenience, not guilt, not a fallback, just worth. They would never see it coming, because to them, I was a ghost, a system, an extra chair they didn't mind giving away. They forgot something vital. Ghosts remember. I signed, not for the inheritance, for the truth, for the first brick in the wall I was going to build between me and the years they took. 3 days later, the tremors began. But no one knew the epicenter. No one knew what she'd done. And no one, not even my mother, knew how close they were to losing everything they thought they owned. Because now I knew the pattern, and I wasn't playing by it anymore. They didn't even notice the silence at first. That's the thing about parasites. They never feel the cord being cut until the blood stops flowing. 3 days after the lawyer's office, I went back to my apartment, sat down with a yellow legal pad, and drew a spider map. At the center, me. Around it, every point of contact, every string they'd attached themselves to. Mortgage cosign, streaming services, insurance, utilities, phone plans, cloud services, tax filing software, Wi-Fi infrastructure, password manager. I wasn't a person to them. I was infrastructure, and I'd build it all. Worse, I let them. Year after year, tiny decisions that seemed harmless. Add them to my family plan? Sure. Pay for TurboTax so they don't miss the deadline? Fine. Sync my Dropbox with Dad's tax folder? Whatever. It wasn't generosity. It was entrapment. But now, for the first time, I had the scissors. The first to go was the phone plan. I logged into my carrier portal, opened the family dashboard for lines. Mine, my mom's, my dad's, and my sister's. For years, I've been paying the full bill. Quietly. Automatically. They never even saw the charge. It was just something they thought the company covered. The company being me. I didn't cancel. That would have been too loud. Instead, I initiated a transfer of ownership. Gave each of them 72 hours to accept the terms, meaning they'd have to attach their own payment method or lose access. No warning. No explanation. Just a pop-up in their inbox saying, "This account has been released from shared billing. Please confirm your payment method within 3 days to avoid service interruption." Next came the cloud. My parents' entire digital life was hosted on an enterprise-grade system I built. Photos, tax documents, scanned wills, old vacation videos, everything stored under a license tied to my business. I revoked their seats. At 2:04 a.m. that night, my mom got logged out of her cloud photo archive mid-scroll. At 2:05, my sister's wedding planning folder disappeared from her desktop. Then the financials. I had access to a shared tax filing software we used since I was 19. I closed their profiles, downloaded my returns, and deleted all shared keys. Gone. The Netflix profile, Mom's Favorites? Deleted. The Spotify account where my dad made Workout Jams 2011? Gone. The Amazon Prime shipping that kept their pantry full and birthday gifts automatic? Replaced with a message saying please re-enter payment method. And then I went for the artery. Their mortgage. Years ago, when their credit was shot and I was finally earning real money, I co-signed a refinance to save the house. I told myself it was the right thing to do. But now, it was a leash. So I called the lender. Explained, politely, professionally, that I wanted off the note. Triggered a reassessment. They wouldn't qualify a loan. I knew that. That was the point. The rep on the phone, Janet, remembered me. "You helped me recover my daughter's lost photos last year," she said. "I remember," I replied. "I need to protect my name now." And she did. Initiated the decoupling process that same day. By Thursday, they got a call. "Due to changes in your cosign agreement, your eligibility for your current rate is under review." They wouldn't understand it at first, but they'd feel it. Next came the software systems. Back-end business tools I had installed into their world like plumbing. Wi-Fi routers at their house, mine. Passwords? Stored in my vault. Their tax folders? Synced through my server. Even their doorbell camera ran through my paid cloud. I disabled all of it. Not maliciously. Technically. Clinically. And then I did something I had never done before. I exported a master document of every login, every shared credential, every saved configuration. I printed it, sealed it in an envelope, and dropped it off at their doorstep. A quiet little goodbye. Inside was one sentence. Everything you used is now yours to manage. Thank you for your time. At first, silence, then confusion, then panic. Mom called 4 times. I didn't answer. Dad sent a one-line email. Did you mess with our internet? I didn't reply. By Friday morning, my sister's message finally dropped the mask. You could have at least warned us. What is wrong with you? That's when I knew it was working. Because here's the truth. They never asked for my help. They expected it. They didn't see me as kind. They saw me as programmed. But I wasn't. Not anymore. That weekend, I went to Grandma's house again. She opened the door like she'd been waiting. I see the fallout started, she said with that sharp little glint in her eye. I just smiled. It's not revenge, I told her. It's infrastructure reclamation. It didn't take long. By Monday, the texts weren't texts anymore. They were novels. They were manifestos. They were panic in paragraph form. It started with my mom, always the lead soprano in the family opera. First, she tried guilt. I don't know what we did to deserve this kind of betrayal. You could have talked to us. You didn't have to be cruel. Then shame. Do you know how embarrassing it is when your own mother has to explain to the mortgage company why the payments are late? Then martyrdom. I gave you life. I cleaned your wounds. I sat beside your hospital bed. And this is how you repay me. But never accountability. Not once. No mention of what they said. No mention of Grandma. No mention of why I acted. Just this fog of emotional warfare, as if they could smoke out the truth by choking me with their version of it. Then came my sister. Her weapon of choice? Sarcasm soaked in venom. So what? You're punishing us for not groveling? We didn't realize you needed to be worshipped. You always were dramatic. Now you're just rich and dramatic. I didn't reply. So she escalated. Posted cryptic quotes on social media. Some people think cutting off family makes them powerful. It just makes them empty. Captioned it with a black heart emoji. She tagged me. I untagged. Then blocked. The following morning, my dad finally stepped in. He left a voicemail. He didn't sound angry. He sounded rehearsed. Son, I think we've all lost sight of what matters here. We're a family, and families don't always get it right, but they don't abandon each other. There was a pause. Then, we're willing to forgive you. That part made me laugh out loud. I played it again. Forgive me. That was the story now. They cast me as the saboteur, the unstable one, the wayward son, the one who threw a tantrum and burned the bridge just to feel tall. They were rewriting the narrative. Fast. And publicly. By Wednesday, mutuals started messaging me. An old family friend sent a DM. I'm not sure what happened, but your mom said you were going through something. If you ever want to talk. Another one emailed me a church newsletter. A paragraph in the community notes section read, "Prayers for the Delaney family as they navigate challenges with a struggling adult child." Struggling. That was the word. Not estranged. Not distancing. Not setting boundaries. Struggling. Because to them, independence looked like a breakdown. Dignity looked like disobedience. Silence looked like instability. I didn't reply to anyone. Not out of weakness. Out of precision. Any reply would validate their story. So I stayed quiet. And that silence? It drove them mad. By Friday, the phone calls turned frantic. Blocked numbers. Private numbers. Fake numbers. Then voicemails like this one from my mother. You think you're so clever, so above us. But you're not. You're still that broken little boy who cried when his Lego set fell apart. She was screaming. Screaming about money. About respect. About how no one will ever love you like family does. She ended with, "You think Grandma loves you more than us? Just wait. You'll see." That was when I knew they felt the shift. They didn't miss me. They missed what I gave them. And now that the faucet was turned off, they were flailing, scrambling, trying to make noise loud enough to fill the space I left behind. Saturday morning, Grandma called. She didn't ask how I was doing. She just said, "They know something's wrong. They just don't know what." I asked what she meant. She told me she'd received a visit. My mom, in tears, asking questions like, "Did he say anything? Did he leave something with you? Are you safe?" Safe. The irony. They had turned a family inheritance into a battleground. They wanted to know what Grandma had changed because they felt it. They felt it. They just didn't know the shape of it yet. They suspected me, but they still believed they could outmaneuver her. And me. That's when the calls turned legal. Literally. A voicemail from my uncle, who's not even involved in any of this, saying, "Maybe we should all sit down with a mediator. You know, just to prevent any escalation." I didn't return it. 2 hours later, my parents showed up at my building. I didn't buzz them in. They waited in the lobby for 90 minutes, then left a note taped to the door. "We didn't raise you to be like this. You're hurting your family. Come home. Come home." As if home was still a place, not a battleground. As if there was anything left of it but smoke and matches. That night, I received the final text that sealed everything. From my sister. "If you don't reverse whatever you did with Grandma, we'll contest it. We'll bury you in paperwork." And that was it. The mask slipped. The claws came out. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. Because the moment you stop needing their love, they lose all leverage. They had nothing left. No loyalty. No humility. No apology. Just desperation disguised as righteousness. And now, the balance had shifted for good. Because I didn't reply. I didn't explain. I didn't apologize. I forwarded the message to Grandma's lawyer. And went to bed. They built the lie like a fortress. Impenetrable. Clean. Public-facing. With smiles, charity events, matching family sweaters, and a curated social media aesthetic that screamed togetherness. But they forgot something fundamental. Fortresses only work when you don't own the blueprints. And I had every blueprint. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't even looking to be seen. But when my name came up at a church committee meeting, as someone who was estranged due to mental health concerns, I decided to act. Not emotionally. Not loudly. Just effectively. Because if they were going to build their version of the truth in the town square, I was going to hang the receipts on the wall next to it. It started with an email. A polite, precise message to the community board of the same church where my parents had spun their pity parade. Subject line, correction member statement, Delaney family. Attached were 3 PDFs. A notarized letter from Grandma's attorney confirming the inheritance change. Screenshots of text from my sister and mom full of threats, accusations, and the infamous "we'll bury you in paperwork." A redacted timeline of financial contributions I had made over the last 5 years, including mortgage cosigns, tuition payments, and canceled subscriptions with timestamps. No commentary. No accusations. Just facts. The email ended simply. I respectfully asked the board to refrain from spreading false narratives regarding my personal decisions. My separation from my family is based on sustained mistreatment, not mental health. Documentation attached. Please let truth stand where fiction has been planted. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, the pastor himself sent a reply. Short. Direct. "We appreciate your clarity. Your message has been reviewed by the full board. We regret the earlier comments. Please consider this matter formally closed." Formally closed. Except outside that room, it was only beginning. Next came the firm. My father's accounting office had long benefited from a glowing testimonial in my portfolio: pro bono infrastructure consultation, cybersecurity overhaul, client data migration. I had written it when I was still trying to earn approval. I deleted it, replaced it with a note. "This client account has been closed due to abuse of personal support and malicious misrepresentation of relationship." It wasn't petty. It was professional. It was earned. My father called within hours. Voicemail, of course. "This is defamation. You're sabotaging everything I've built. You can't just tell people things like that." Except I didn't tell anyone. I showed them. Because when you walk out of a house full of gas leaks, you're not burning bridges. You're preventing an explosion. Then came the final nail, the public record. Grandma's lawyer filed the updated will with the state, which made it part of the public archive, which made it searchable, which made it real. Anyone could pull it. And when they did, they'd see one clean paragraph near the end. "I, Evelyn Delaney, of sound mind and body, leave the entirety of my estate to my grandson for years of unseen loyalty, quiet sacrifice, and the kind of integrity that deserves more than table scraps." There it was. Not vengeance. Recognition. Not punishment. Proof. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't post about it. But people talk. And by the end of the week, I got a call from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. She said, "They're melting down. Your sister's been crying on Facebook. Your dad hasn't shown up to the office. Your mom's telling people Grandma's been confused lately." I almost laughed. But the sadness hit first. Not because I pitied them. Because I finally saw them for what they were. Not powerful. Not cruel. Just terrified. They weren't mourning a legacy. They were mourning their version of the story. And that's when I knew. The balance had shifted. Permanently. That weekend, I got a call from a law firm I didn't recognize. New Jersey area code. I picked up. It was Grandma's old accountant, a quiet man named Harold who I'd met twice at family barbecues. He said, "Just wanted to let you know your grandma asked me to start the transfer process for her charitable contributions. She's closing the family foundation." That caught me off guard. "Why?" I asked. He replied, "She said she finally realized the family name didn't deserve a foundation. She wants to start fresh. And she said you'd know what to do." So I did. I incorporated a new fund, named it after the only real thing that had survived the fire. The Quiet Rebuild Fund. Its mission? Grants for estranged adults rebuilding lives after family trauma. I seeded it with my own money, not out of spite, out of principle, because truth shouldn't just be exposed, it should build. And that's what this was now. Not destruction, not drama, not revenge. Reconstruction. I got a text from my sister a few days later. Just one line. "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond, because she still didn't get it. This wasn't about being happy. It was about being free. And now? Everyone knew why. They didn't knock. They rang the bell like they were expected, like the past hadn't happened. I watched them through the security cam. My mother in pearls, my father stiff in that pleading posture, my sister with arms crossed like a hostage negotiator. Maya opened the door. "He's not interested." My mom's voice cracked. "We just want to talk." I stepped out. "I'll listen. But if this is a performance, save it." They tried the usual sequence: guilt, regret, carefully rehearsed vulnerability. "We made mistakes. We were scared. We didn't mean to hurt you." I waited, then said, "Yes, you did. You didn't think there'd be boundaries." My dad mumbled something about family, money, stress. I stopped him. "You didn't lose the house. You lost me." Silence. "You didn't lose Grandma. You lost the last thread she had left in you." Still nothing. I opened the door behind me. This isn't punishment. It's clarity. Then I went inside. Closed the door. No slamming. No final words. Just stillness. Grandma called later that night. "I heard," she said. "I'm proud of you." That was the last thing I needed. Not their apology. Not their return. Just that. Peace not as a gift, but as a decision. And I made it.